Well, good afternoon. It's good to see so many of you here this afternoon in Rotterdam. This is actually our home exhibition of all the exhibitions that are currently going on internationally. And well, there's a lot of buzz going on in this industry at the moment. And it's good to see so many new people, but also a lot of familiar people here in this room this afternoon. A lot of familiar people from some of the leading companies in this industry with whom we work on multiple of the large-scale projects that are currently being executed. And today I want to reflect on the experiences that we have had in these projects and to share our knowledge that we obtained in this way. So, my name is Bart Vries. I'm working as a business development and sales manager within VONK. And this means that I'm one of the leads in the hydrogen industry for our business. And this is a very joyful experience, to be honest. So I'm always happy to share those insights and go through it today. As VONK, we have a lot of heritage in a various range of demanding industries. So even though I'm going to present you our brand name NEA for our power supplies for green hydrogen, we can leverage upon a wealth of experience in many industries built upon in more than 85 years. And nowadays we fully focus on the energy transition. So what does this mean? This means that through our power supplies we enable the scaling of green hydrogen. And in uranium enrichment, we are the supplier for power supplies to enrich the uranium through centrifugal process. We are by far the biggest supplier in the world on that. We're also in the heart of enabling nuclear fusion research through our large-scale power supplies. We even have delivered a 140 megawatt power supply last year to the IPP Institute in Munich for that. Next to that, we create a lot of smart energy grids. And last but not least, certainly not least, we do a lot in the electrification of production processes in the oil and gas industry. Similar, like is necessary to achieve carbon neutrality in 2050 in this industry as well. So, as I mentioned, we are going to brand our power supplies for electrolysis as NEA. The main reason for doing this is because we see we want to emphasize the importance of this industry, not only for us, but to the industry in general. By setting aside this with a separate name, we can really focus upon this and give it the attention and the spotlight it deserves. So what is NEA? NEA is the connection that you need between the electricity grid, wherever this grid is the electricity is coming from. So either it's a direct connection to a renewable source or from a public available grid, to the electrolyzer. As each and every electrolyzer manufacturer has different electrical characteristics, and each and every project situation has different requirements and or grid characteristics, there is no one size fits all. And we have the best fitting technologies available to create a fitting solution for each project and each electrolyzer type. As I mentioned, we are involved in a lot of large-scale projects. And being involved in these large-scale projects gives us the opportunity to learn. And this market in general, and especially in my personal experience, is very much a learning game. So we have to continuously learn what it takes to create the best fitting solutions in an ever upscaling market. And by doing this, we learn a lot along the way, and this is knowledge that we want to share, because only by working together and collaborating and sharing knowledge, we can mutually grow this market and scale hydrogen to the scale that it needs to be to reach our targets in 2030 and beyond. And from our experience in those large-scale projects, we have a lot to share. And I want to look at a number of highlights on where big cost improvements can be made over time. So, one thing that we observe in the variety of projects that we're working on is that there are obviously a lot of differences, especially in the implementation. So this is not just in circumstances, but what you see, for instance, as I mentioned already, there is a lot of variation in grid conditions. So we see a lot of variation in voltage levels, and more on the technical side on short circuit currents. And this influences how we should approach this grid. Therefore, in addition to that, we also see a lot of variation in the power quality requirements, most often referred to as harmonics and power factor. This has definite consequences for how you should approach your power supply. And then if you look at implementation of projects, we see a lot of differences in the implementation environment. For instance, are you looking at a newly built situation, or are you going to implement a green hydrogen setup within an existing situation? And is the facility going to be placed indoor or outdoors? Really has a lot of impact on how you can set up your power supplies. And to us, the key to achieve the bottom line lowest cost on your power supplies is first to have a fitting technology. So you have a good match between that's what's coming out of the electricity grid and what's required on that side and what's needed for your electrolyzer. And then to integrate this in the right way. So to achieve the best fitting technology, we've got a number of topologies available. I won't go into details here. But our NEA power supplies can be set up from a certain number of standard building blocks from standard setups in multiple technologies, so we don't have to shoehorn the one that we want into your situation, but we select the best fitting one for your project situation, and therefore you can achieve the lowest cost. I think that's a really key to achieve the best situation on a project level. Another topic that's quite often been a subject of our discussions in the large-scale projects with the project development organizations, but also with the OEMs and the EPCs, is how to deal with transformers. Transformers are a considerable part of the total expense of the power supply. And it's quite clear that one big transformer is a lot cheaper than two smaller ones, even though you have to take a number of things into account. So for some of the setups, it's actually an integral part of the technical solution, so you should consider that. And we see in practice that there are manufacturing constraints once you reach certain sizes. So something to consider that. And it's not just from a manufacturing or manufacturability point of view, but also from a supply chain and lead time point of view. And you also should consider that the more rectifiers you place behind one transformer, the less flexibility you have, so it's also a thing to consider on a plant level. Really a thing to consider, and we can definitely think along with you. As I mentioned, project integration is key to achieving low cost. And there's a lot of variation there. So you have indoor, outdoor installations, and the environment is, well, of big importance as well. So you can be indoors, outdoor, in a hot environment or a very cold environment. I mean, we're executing projects in the Middle East, North Africa, but also in Arctic environments, like in a lot of projects are currently going on in Scandinavia. And if you're looking at a chemical site or a site close to shore, or even onshore, then you have to deal with corrosive environments as well. So packaging the rectifiers is a big part of what we do. And to our experience, we think adaptability is key. So you don't want to reinvent each solution every time for each project. Therefore, we've set up our skids in such a way that we can easily place them indoors as a skid. You can see in an example of an actual project. You can panelize them for outdoor use, or we can even containerize these skids in the same way for harsh environments. So we're very adaptable to the type of project integration that you need for your particular project situation. As an addition to that, And this is actually the last of the specific points I want to address. Cooling is a very big topic, and there's a lot of distinctions, a lot of difference between if you're looking at smaller projects or you're looking at, well, basically individual units, or you're looking at medium-scale projects as they are being developed now in the tens of megawatts, or when you're looking at 100 megawatt plus projects. So you can have individual coolers per rectifier. That's quite often seen, for instance, with a container. If you place them outdoors, then you have just one chiller per rectifier. For the smaller projects, we quite often see that you want to link the cooling of your rectifier to the cooling system of a plant. And then a heat exchanger is a good solution, basically as an intermediate step. But if you go to a large-scale plant, it really makes sense to have a dedicated plant-level cooling system just for your rectifiers. I mean, our rectifiers are very efficient, but even if you have an efficiency of 98%, that means that at 100 megawatt power levels, you still have 2 megawatts of heat dissipation. That's still a lot to cool. And therefore, it makes sense to optimize your cooling setup, not only from a temperature point of view, but definitely also from a cost point of view. So that's a consideration to make when you are developing large-scale projects or scaling large-scale projects. So, I don't want to point out too much individual pinpoint information on certain subjects, so I'm really going to leave it at this. But I want to summarize everything in a number of takeaways. So, if you want to have a cost-optimized power supply for large-scale projects, the main things to consider are first and foremost to select the right topology for your situation. And we have multiple topologies available, so there's always the right one for your situation to have the lowest cost bottom line. Another big topic to address is to optimize your transformer setup. And then, once you set up the basics, how are you going to integrate this into the project-specific environment for dealing with the project-specific details? These are the key actions to achieve the lowest cost for your power supplies in large-scale projects, and essential to upscaling projects to 100 megawatt plus levels, as we're doing right now. I would like to thank you all for being here. If there are any questions, please let me know. I'm sure there is someone with a microphone who can be running around and address some questions, so please raise your hand if you have any questions. And in case there are no questions for now, or you don't want to ask them in public, feel free to visit us at booth A53. So it's just reversing towards the entrance, and you will pass our booth, because we're quite right across the Australian pavilion. And then we will be happy to address any of your questions over there. Thank you very much for your attention, and hopefully see you around. Cheers. Bye-bye.